Austin, have you ever? I was thinking about this, and I couldn't remember one for myself. Have you ever had a time where you made? I mean, I'm sure you've had a bunch, but like one that really sticks in your mind over the years, or that stuck in your mind over the years. Have you ever made a gut play and it paid off like big time?
Yeah, nothing I can like
Yeah,
think of. I kind of I'm very like one game at a time. I forget about it.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
maybe you'll think of like moments, like oh, Aaron Foster scoring whatever, or this doing that or whatever. But I can't really think of like specifically. Actually, you know what? I think because I really like rookies. I drafted like 6 or 7 rookies in my draft this year,
Yeah.
just because I like them. I like to see
Mhm.
how they do. I have Joe Burrow. I even got Tua. I have
Yeah.
Jonathan Taylor, Henry Ruggs. I got a lot of rookies on my team just because no one's seen them. You never know. They have like potential, but also potential to bust. I remember starting like picking up who I mean like just picking up Cam or just picking up
Yeah.
all of these players when they're rookies and then having them go off like
Yeah.
that's a great feeling like to have that.
Yeah. I can see
That's
that definitely.
Yeah, going into what Jose said real quick though is like because you're talking about starting someone or wanting to start someone because of numbers, but then you also have these players, so you're not sure. It really sucks when you have someone playing like a Thursday. I don't know if you've experienced that yet, and you're like unsure there. It's like you can start your week off great, with a good like Thursday
Well, Nick
boom,
Chubb
or
for
yeah, like Nick
Yeah,
Chubb. Oh,
Nick
you have
Chubb. Yeah,
experience. There you
yeah.
go.
Literally this past week, Nick Chubb got 24 points, and I'm like, I feel great. And then when
Yeah,
Sunday
that's a
came
great
along, Matt just
starting.
like just rolled me like a truck, just
in,
going through.
in
And I'm like,
comparison
damn.
to my Thursday where I started a defense that went -5 and had to
I
go to the
thought I
league,
had it.
it's like, oh, you know. So that's also going to be a problem. But yeah, that's. Do you
Yeah.
have any memories of someone you played or some chance you took where you're like, oh shit?
Me, I really feel like I've had a lot of plays or stuff pay off. I don't feel like I've made a gut feeling that paid off. I feel like sometimes like I'll do a gut play and it's like, oh, it didn't go badly or they did whatever. I don't feel like I've ever had like a big one. I mean, I went with Brady week 1 this year. That was kind of gutty, but it's not like it was that much. I mean, he didn't. What did Dak score last week? Like a lot.
About
Also, like
Dak scored last week like 68, but the first
I
week
mean, week one. Yeah,
Dak
yeah.
and Brady
Talking
scored
about
about
week
the
one.
same.
Yeah. But I don't. It's just stuff like that. I don't. Not one that sticks in my mind. I guess. But I definitely could go back and look. And I feel like early on in our league, I made some good pickups actually. That I was like, oh yeah, like this paid off. Like because I would go on ESPN and read the waiver wire ads and stuff and do stuff like that. So I would always just go and like, oh, who's the best waiver wire this week, and I'd like go add them and you know, payoff and stuff like that. That's another thing Jose is like tons of reading out there, tons of like content and material that is like really helpful. I think one of my best years was when I was listening to the one of the fantasy podcasts. I think like Fantasy Focus a lot and some other ones. But so yeah, that's always really good stuff. Let's kind of bring this like section to a close a little bit. Jose, who do you think will have the best and worst teams this year? I know it's week 2, but best and worst teams this year, excluding your team.
As far okay, I'm trying to think right now. After like these past couple weeks, um, as far as best teams go, one's probably gonna be I'm gonna say two teams. One's
Okay.
kind of a no-brainer, and the other's kind of like a whoa, kind of a hot take.
Okay.
So the first one I'd say off the bat, Matt's team. I think will probably go number one this year. The dark horse here is I want to say Nestor's team.
Yeah. I mean, yeah,
Okay, I like
I
both
Yeah,
agree.
those picks.
Me too.
yeah. So, well, the reason why I say Nestor's team is because Alvin Kamara is doing a fantastic job for his team, and that's probably going to be a big thing going forward, seeing as the Saints are going to like if you saw yesterday's
Yeah.
game, they kept running the ball, they kept running to Kamara, and then even in our hangout in our Discord hangout, you just see Nestor pop in every now and it's like let's go
Yeah.
Kamara leaves.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And so I think those are my top two.
No,
Worst team,
yeah.
um, I don't want to call out my former roommate. But I think if Mark doesn't pick it up, I think he's gonna have the worst record.
It's funny
I
because
think he's gonna have the worst.
Austin also wanted you to ask about, or wanted to ask you about Mark's team. So tell us a little bit what do you think of his team?
Yeah.
What do you think of weaknesses are? Why do you think he'll get the Tulos or bad record or whatever?
So when we did the draft, I actually liked his team, how it sounds. But then the more I took a look at it versus looking at the numbers, a lot of the players like they're I'm gonna go through his team here a bit. They were very like brandy players. Like you hear the name Carson Wentz, you're like, oh hey, you know who Carson Wentz is,
Hmm.
you know. But a lot of these players they're underperforming, and
Yeah.
so and that's why I think there's a difference between like knowing a player versus like a player's performance. There's a
Yeah.
lot of really good players that um that they don't have a name for themselves. You don't hear their name often, but when they perform really well for the team.
Yeah.
So
Would you say it's almost like the opposite of going with like stats and numbers? You're almost going with your heart a little bit, or going with name recognition. Like you're looking at the name rather than looking at the numbers. Would you say?
yeah. So I think with I'm looking at Mark's team right now. Before, I mean, one of the quarterbacks that he drafted was Baker Mayfield, and when you hear that name, Baker Mayfield, you already
Yeah.
think like, oh, superstar status. This guy is like a really good quarterback. He did really good for OU. He got a Heisman. He has a name for himself already. But sometimes the college football
Boomer
doesn't
Sooner, by
always
the way.
translate very well
Forgot I
to
went to.
the NFL, and so even like I think I want to say, is this his third year playing? I want to say, I'm not sure,
Baker? Yeah,
but
I think so.
yeah. So he's had like a little bit of a shakeup within the first couple years with the Browns, but I think he's
Hmm.
starting to get his traction going. He's starting to get forward. But going back to Mark's team, like you have a lot of like players that have like good brands, but they're not like the most performant. Like they don't play very well. Like they'll have moments where they can like shine and
Yeah.
they'll do things. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now. Even when I did my draft, I went off of the numbers. I kind of did my regressions. I figured out, okay, these are the stats that affect fantasy score the most. I'm gonna go off of it. There's
Hmm.
moments where I was like,
Yeah.
I don't even know what the name or who this person is. I just know that they play really well. First one
Hmm.
was Darren Waller. I never knew who he was. Did not even know that name. But I was but like his 2019 season said he did really good.
Yeah.
So and he's available, so I'm gonna pick him up. So that was kind of where it's at right now, and I think
Mhm.
he's definitely been doing some trades, doing some changes like even for like the draft.
Yeah.
He drafted the Cowboys D. And that it Cowboys D is very volatile. Some one week it can like they can play real well. Chance like next week they can like they won't play to their highest efficiency. So yeah, but even then, kind of going back to like when you hear the name Cowboys, it's like the brand,
Yeah.
what it represents.
What's his favorite team
It.
too? I mean.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. It's my favorite
Mhm.
team as well. So yeah, it doesn't always necessarily correlate to good name equals good performance. So,
Yeah.
which is why like when I did kind of looking back at my draft, I was very surprised that I drafted three members from the Browns. I was like, whoa, how did this happen? I got like Nick Chubb, Jarvis Landry, and
Yeah.
Austin Hooper, and I was like, I gotta have some variety here. I don't want to be too dependent on the Browns here. So yeah, yeah. If you can focus more on like the number, not to say like the numbers it will directly
Hmm.
translate, but kind of seeing where the players' trends are. If you can make some good pickups, I think that'll change direction and traction for his
Yeah.
team.
I definitely agree. I haven't heard too much from Mark, but I wonder if we'll see like a Mark like Jose maybe rivalry, or maybe like if Mark
No,
has like a response to that, kind of like
I think we play against each other. I'm not too sure. I haven't seen the full schedule yet.
that'll be interesting.
Yeah, I just
Um
want to say two things real quick. Like
mhm.
the reason I wanted to ask that question is because you know how in football when quarterbacks get drafted in the same draft class, everyone wants to compare them forever.
Right.
So that's gonna be you're gonna be compared to Mark this year going forward. That's just how
Yep.
it works. We
That's fair.
compared Dicky and Matt because they were brought in the same year.
Mm,
Uh,
Yep.
and that's how that's gonna work. And I just also want to say I had Darren Waller last year, drafted him. He's a beast. He's gonna
Yep.
go off. So
nice. Yeah, I was gonna ask you, Austin, if you had any other questions for Jose, and we can wrap up this player profile.
Yeah, sure. I'll ask the one question that I think I asked you that you said was a good one that you've already also kind of touched on, Jose. Um, but let me just get the exact question. It was are there things you've discovered that numbers and stats can't tell you? You've already talked a little bit about that, but is there like one thing that you've like noticed like, okay, this is something that I can't even really look at numbers at all, or I shouldn't look at this for that reason or anything?
Yeah, so I think I mentioned earlier like the matchups, and I think that
Okay, the
already
matchup.
mentioned. Yeah, even week one when I played against you, I was expecting Nick Chubb to get so many points, but he only got like it was single digits if I remember correctly. And then that's when I found out I was like, oh, they played the Ravens, and I remember you telling me it's like, yeah, did the numbers account for them playing against Baltimore?
Oh
I'm
yeah,
like, no, I
like,
was like, I
like an
totally
asshole.
forgot about that. I just went in like very blind, knowing like, oh yeah, I'm projected to get this amount of points. So, um, that is also like, uh, that's one part. Even like there's gonna be upsets. A team's gonna be projected to win
Yeah,
the game, maybe like a certain percentage, like maybe like 70% or something like that. But then there could be upsets that happen
Sure.
along the way. Even like the Cowboys were supposed to win. Well, they did win, but it was a very close game. With even like despite like all these insane things that happened with even just in the first quarter alone. Um, so yeah, that's one thing that I need to keep account for. Also injuries as well. You know, we've already had experience like that. This week too, we had so many injuries that came up.
yeah,
Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey, several members of the 49ers, including Jimmy
yeah.
Garoppolo.
Mostly
So
Garoppolo.
yeah, so the numbers aren't gonna account for an accidental injury, You
Yeah,
just gotta go in under the assumption. That's also one thing with statistics. You have to go in with these assumptions.
yeah,
When I make these regressions, you have to go in under these several assumptions. If not, your models are not gonna be as they're not gonna be as efficient, they're not gonna be as reliable.
yeah.
So those are the two main ones.
Imagine someone going to like your model or your statistics like equation or like whatever and just taking like a variable out. It's like, nope, you're not gonna play for the rest of the season, and then that's like what you're
Like,
you're dealing
no.
with now.
Yeah, so
Um,
there's like that level of uncertainty that I mean we sometimes we account for in statistics, like that's called like the error term.
mhm.
But we have to account for that uncertainty. What depending on the magnitude of that uncertainty, we may
Yeah,
not know.
yeah,
So
of
we just have
course.
to go on under those assumptions. So
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, one last question. Are
yes.
you having fun? Are you enjoying your
Oh yeah, for
Okay,
sure.
great.
For sure. Even like with these past couple games with loss, like I'm actually having a really fun time. Like, these games that I've never, it's been a while since I've like legit sat down and watched a full game of football. Mostly if I watch football, it's going to be for my favorite teams, but now I'm watching all these other, like all these
Yeah.
plays happen. And then like if I see not my player, but somebody else's, if for example, with Russell Wilson, if he makes a good play to DK Metcalf, and I remember, that Sunday night. I was like, Jeremy, DK Metcalf, points, points.
Yeah, it's fun.
Uh,
It's also been really
um,
cool of you to host the games on
Oh
Discord. That's
yeah.
been super
yeah,
fun. So thank you for that.
yeah, absolutely.
Very, very
So
cool.
I've already seen all the drama that definitely like. I mean, yes, the drama will take away some of it, but at the end of the day, I'm definitely having a lot of fun. I'm already seeing
Nice.
like the jokes go around. I'm already seeing like the trash talk happen. Like even with Matt, or like Sunday before the Monday night game with the Saints and the Raiders, I was down like, well before like Sunday started, I think it was like 100 something to like 25,
Hmm.
something like that. And then Matt was already trash talking. And it's like, what are the statistics of me whooping your ass already? I'm like, whoa, dude. Like, dang.
That's awesome.
So, but even then, like, coming back to almost, I mean, I would say not, it's not, the difference is not too much, but just coming back, even like that 164 to 152
Yeah,
score,
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
awesome.
that like it's not,
It's a great scores.
that's not an easy feat. And like I
No.
I know for me, like, this is, as far as fantasy football goes, this is my first season entirely. So the
Hmm.
fact that I'm like making all these like close scoring games, like I
Yeah.
think of like the
Yeah.
Avengers Endgame meme with like with the Hulk. It's like I see this as an absolute win here.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Dude, we talked about it last week. The average score for all the teams was like 102 to 105, and you put up 150 points. Like, yeah, it
Yeah.
happens, but you're right. It's a good sign. It's a good thing to be
Mhm.
optimistic about and